Hello and welcome back, it's Shrike here with another D&D video, and today I'm going to give you some tips of how to run Curse of Strahd. Curse of Strahd is loved by many in the D&D community. I even did a poll over on Twitter to see what people's favourite campaign was, and by quite a long way, Curse of Strahd won. So in this video, I'm going to give you some tips of how to run Curse of Strahd more effectively. But before we get onto that, I just want to let you know that I upload videos here on YouTube every Monday and Thursday. So if you want to improve your game or take part in D&D discussions, make sure to subscribe and then hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I upload a new video. So the first tip I'm going to give you is pretty much a tip which will work for any module that you want to run, and that's to read the book beforehand. And by beforehand, I mean before the campaign even starts, not just before the session you're about to play. And that's even more important for Curse of Strahd because at a certain point it does get quite open world, and if your players go somewhere that you don't expect them to go, you could end up blindsided and just messing up the session. So what I would suggest is read the book from front to back and make sure to just understand the story beats in each of the different places. Each place in Curse of Strahd has its own storylines, its own thing that's going on. Just make sure you understand that, and then if your players did go to a place you weren't expecting them to go, you should have just enough information to be able to pull off a session by winging it. And then once you've read the whole book before the campaign even starts, make sure to read the specific parts again before the session you're about to go into, to just familiarise yourself with it, and then that's the point where you really have to take notes and sort of understand it properly. When you read it before the campaign even starts, that's just to have an overview and understanding of what's going on in each place. So the second tip I'm going to give you is how to use Strahd effectively in the campaign. It says that Strahd should be ever present, it should be coming up throughout the campaign, but doesn't give you many specific scenarios where he comes up and just sort of leaves that for you to decide. So I'm just going to give you a few times where Strahd could pop up in your campaign right here. So the first time he can pop up, which is extremely effective in the games that I have run where I have done this, and that is when you find the letter which is on the dead corpse's body right at the beginning of the campaign. So how I did it is the players found the letter, they read it, and then once they read it, he walks out of the woods and asks them what it is that they found. And it's a sort of nice introduction to who Strahd is as a character. And if they try to hide the letter, they can do that, but if they do present the letter to Strahd, he can just read it and then dismiss it as if he doesn't care for whatever's going on. He's too important, he's not feeling threatened, and it gives him this awe of being very powerful. It's also a good time to give them a bit of lore of Barovia, because they could ask him who he is and he could say he's Strahd and he rules over these lands and say a bit about the lands. So it's quite a nice way to introduce them to the lands from the get-go if you want to do that. Another way I've used Strahd, and it's been quite effective, is when the characters are travelling, so outside of a city, going between the cities. I've had it where Strahd sends some wolves to attack the players while he stands back and watches. This way he doesn't get involved and he doesn't overpower them if they're too low a level, and he sort of is taking note, he's sort of watching and seeing how they perform against these wolves. And once again it gives him this awe that he is far too powerful to even be bothering with the characters, but still wants to know how competent they actually are. And then the final way to use him that I'm going to give you here is once they have gone to a place which is outside of a settlement and they have found one of the items that the whole campaign is based around, he turns up to see what they were doing there. If they had to go to Arkenvostolt, for example, to go and get one of the items, say the holy symbol, when they leave, he is waiting for them as they leave, and it just starts to question why they were there. He doesn't attack or do anything aggressive, he's just questioning why they're there. He could say things like, it's strange that some new people have come to the lands and they've gone to this ancient manor that hasn't been occupied for a long time and not many people know is there. So how did you know this was there? What were you doing there? This should give the players the idea that he's always watching, he's always there, he's always present, and creep them out a little bit. The third tip I'm going to give you is to do the Tarokka Reading before the game even starts. Now it actually says to do this in the book, but I have played in a game and I've seen discussions online about people doing the Tarokka Reading mid-game, and it really feels clunky. It's really clunky because if you're drawing it mid-game, you have to then work out what the card is, what position it's in, go to the book, find the place and read it out. It's just a bit disjointed, and this scene where you're with Madame Eva or whoever's doing the reading should be really impactful for the campaign. So if you had thoughts of not bothering doing the card reading before the campaign starts and just doing it mid-game, don't. It will just completely disjoint the game, and do it beforehand. It's nice and easy, and then just rig the deck so that the 5 cards you did it with beforehand are on the top, and then you can do the reading again mid-game, but have the reading ready to read out, if that makes sense. The next tip I want to give you is about talking to your players beforehand about death, because it is very prevalent in this campaign. It is a very deadly campaign they're about to go through, so there is the real possibility that their character will die, and just make that clear before the campaign even starts, because it's nothing worse than a player being really attached to a character, not wanting them to die, and then them just walking into a place which is too high level for them, so they end up dying, and it's just a bit of a sour taste. So just making sure they understand from the get-go that death is a possibility will clear that up. And that's something else you have to be aware of. Every area in Curse of Strahd has its own level. So you could have level 3 characters that walk into a level 9 area, and it could just not go very well for them. So you might have to try to steer them in the right direction and make sure that doesn't happen. The final tip I'm going to leave you with is more of a warning, and that's that Castle Ravenloft, which is where the campaign should end, is really confusing to understand. It's quite big, and there's a lot of secret doors, and there's passages which go to places you wouldn't expect, so just be aware and make sure to spend some time learning it. I found the best way for me to learn things like this is to recreate it in a tool like Arkham Forge or Dungeon Fog if you use tools like that. Once I've recreated it myself, I can get my head around which corridor leads to where the stairs are going and all of that stuff. I know some people as well to learn it have gone into Minecraft and created it in Minecraft, which is really good as well. That's a very good way, because then you can walk the halls and you can actually feel like you're in there, so you'll understand it better if you're a Minecraft player. But if you don't do any sort of preparation before Castle Ravenloft, you're going to find that your head's in the book for most of the session, trying to work out which corridor goes to which door, to which stairs, and then which floor, and it's just going to not be very good. Castle Ravenloft is a great place to get the whole vampire horror feel across, so you really want this to be nice and immersive end to your campaign, so by doing that you're just going to let your players down a bit. While we're talking about Castle Ravenloft and the end of the campaign as well, quite a lot of people believe that Strahd is quite an easy encounter and not very fulfilling for the end of the campaign, so what I would suggest there is just always make sure there are minions with him, even if it's just a few swarms of bats. It will help to keep the players away from him, and then he can do all of the tricks that he has up his sleeve. Or start the combat with him in greater invisibility. That's also going to help him a lot, because he's going to have a great advantage on the players there, and they shouldn't get the jump on him and kill him before he even gets a turn. So there you have it. There are 5 tips for running Curse of Strahd. If you have any extra tips, put them down in the comments down below, and then if you're watching the video, go down to the comments and see what other people are saying about Curse of Strahd as well. If you found this video helpful, please do give it a like. It helps this channel a lot, and make sure to subscribe if you want to continue to improve your game and you want to take part in Dungeons & Dragons discussions. But until next time, happy gaming.